Imagine you're walking down Main Street. You see a boy in front of you, and he throws a rock through the window of a bakery. The glass shatters everywhere. Now a crowd gathers around and they say, well, at least one good thing is this will help the economy. I mean, the baker will have to pay the glass guy to fix his window, so that will be money for the window fixer guy, and that creates a job. And the guy who fixes the window will spend that money, and the money will circulate around. And so, you know what? Actually, broken windows are really good for growth and they're really good for the economy. And part of that sounds kind of logical, but it's actually a fallacy. In fact, there's a name for it in economics. It's called the broken window fallacy. And French economist Frédéric Bastiat popularized this view, the broken window fallacy, in the 1800s. Today, governments, businesses, and even families still oftentimes fall for this same mistake. Let's just talk through this. What is the broken window fallacy? It's a simple fallacy. You see money being spent on repairing destruction, and you think, hey, that's good for growth because money's being spent. But what you don't see is the opportunity cost. What could have been done with the money if the window had never been broken? Because there's lots of other things that the money could have been used for. The baker had $500. If this window hadn't been smashed, he might have bought a new oven with that $500. He might have expanded his shop. He maybe would have hired an apprentice. That's true growth. It's building something new, not just repairing something that's broken. So instead, the baker ends up replacing what was lost, his broken window, and there's not really any gain. It's kind of like just running in place. It's not creation, it's replacement. And there's plenty of modern examples of this, right? This fallacy shows up all over the place. Let me give you some specifics. War spending. Governments sometimes say, well, at least wars stimulate the economy. True, they do create military jobs, but the resources that's spent on bombs and tanks could have built schools, hospitals, or infrastructure that last. War destroys wealth, it doesn't create it. I'm not saying we don't need to spend on our military. I think we do, but we shouldn't think, oh, just spending on wars stimulates the economy. What about natural disasters? After hurricanes or earthquakes, you'll hear headlines like billions will be spent on rebuilding. This is great for the economy. But those billions are just replacing homes and businesses that already existed. Imagine if that same amount of money went into innovation instead of recovery. What about with personal finances? Maybe you said, well, at least my car breaking down gave me a reason to buy a new car. Ultimately, that's not economic growth. That's just forced replacement. Think about for those of you who are pastors, what about in church budgets? A church might say, well, the roof collapsed, but at least we're keeping contractors busy. No, those funds could have gone into missions or ministry expansion. Repair is necessary, but it's not kingdom growth. So we shouldn't confuse the two. And biblically, I think we could say, what's the difference between stewardship versus waste? The broken window fallacy, in many ways, is really about stewardship. Jesus taught the parable of the talents in Matthew 25. The good servants invested and multiplied the money their master had given them. The foolish servant wasted the opportunity he'd been given. God calls us to build, not just to patch up holes, to invest in what multiplies, not to constantly pour all of our resources into fixing preventable waste. Proverbs 21:20 says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Wise stewardship multiplies resources. Foolishness squanders those resources. Destruction and waste might create the illusion of activity, but they don't ultimately create true value. That's what we learned from the broken window fallacy. And as I'm examining different economic terms, I hope this is helpful to you. Let me make some specific application for you as a Christian leader. If you're a pastor, when ministry breaks down because of poor planning, you may spend all your resources fixing problems instead of building disciples. Stewardship means thinking ahead, avoiding the broken windows in the church. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, don't confuse activity with productivity. Pouring money into constant repairs, poor employee turnover, or redoing sloppy work eats up your capital. Invest in prevention, invest in training, invest in excellence. That really multiplies. And for all of you parents, teaching kids to value stewardship means showing them the cost of waste. If we didn't break that, we could have used the money for something better. It's discipleship, even in your economics. And what about those of you who are just Christian citizens? Don't be fooled when politicians say destruction is stimulating. Advocate for policies that actually build value, for education, for innovation, for stewardship, not just repairs that come from mismanagement. I mean, none of us would celebrate when our teenager wrecks the car, right? Well, hey, at least we get to stimulate the auto body shop economy. No, that's not growth. That's expensive stupidity. We try to teach our teenagers not to wreck the vehicle. True growth is when the teenager learns responsibility, saves up, and buys something new with their own earnings. That's stewardship. That's true growth. Let me close it this way. Christian leaders don't fall for the broken window fallacy in your ministry, in your business, or in your family. True growth doesn't come just from fixing what's broken, it comes from building something new. True growth is not waste, it's stewardship. It's not destruction, it's multiplication. Don't cheer when the kid throws a brick through the window. Ask yourself, am I pouring my time, my money, and my energy into just replacing windows? Or am I building something lasting for the kingdom of God? I hope you found this video helpful. If so, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, or even consider sharing this with a friend. Thanks so much for your time, and I hope that you have a wonderful day walking with Jesus.